to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Burkinabe Transitional President Captain Traoré attributes Sahel state exit from ECOWAS to worsening security crisis in the sub-region.
The organization was supposed to create solidarity. We never received any help from this organization. No soldiers, no logistics, no compassion. It's a blow to the heart, not a blow of anger.
February 20 coalition denounces Mali's military authorities' withdrawal from ECOWAS, cites illegitimate decisions. And Senegal's National Assembly inaugurates a committee to investigate the verification process by the Constitutional Council weeks before February 25.
If, as soon as this commission is established, they give their evidence, then it will be something else. Because it will be very serious if the evidence is really there and that in the meantime, the commission recognizes the accusations of the Senegalese Democratic Party.
Qui va remettre en cause aussi bien tout ce qui s'est fait jusqu'ici.
And the Gambian government initiates security talks with Russia to address rising terrorism threats in Africa. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana and Liberia. Our top story takes us to Burkina Faso as head of transitional government highlights reasons for his country's withdrawal as well as those of the Sahel Alliance from ECOWAS. In an exclusive interview on state television RTB, Captain Ibrahim Traoré revealed Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger opted to leave the organization due to the worsening security situation in the sub-region. Traoré, who becomes the first junta leader to officially comment on the state's withdrawal, says bilateral relations between his country, Russia and France remain.
The 30-minute interview commenced with a focus on the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger from ECOWAS. Captain Ibrahim Traoré asserts that this decision, though serious, stems from a thorough analysis, emphasizing that after 50 years, the economic community has lost its significance. He illustrates Burkina Faso's situation, citing a decade of solitary counter-terrorism efforts.
The organization was supposed to create solidarity. We never received any help from this organization. No soldiers, no logistics, no compassion. It's a blow to the heart, not a blow of anger. If it was a blow of anger, we would have done it a long time ago. I think we took the time to analyze the situation, to weigh a lot of things, and finally to decide. So if it was a blow to the heart, from the first moment of certain sanctions, the people were quite resilient. It must be said, they suffered, so during that time, we could decide in anger, but we didn't have the time to observe, to analyze the situation, and convince ourselves of our strengths before deciding.
In response to the friction between the regional body and the Sahel trio, the African Union, in a statement on Tuesday, calls for collaborative efforts to preserve ECOWAS unity. But Captain Traoré said the decision is forever.
We must not make mistakes. Our itinerary is from way back. Everything we do, when we decide to break the chains that are now breaking us, is forever.
Addressing bilateral relations with France and the European Union, the Burkinabe transitional president assures that there are no particular issues. He clarified that representatives from these entities are in Ouagadougou and their activities will be monitored, extending the same expectation to any country or international organization that respects Burkina Faso's sovereignty.
Ogeberika will now report over in Mali. A coalition of political and civil society actors denounces the decision of transitional authorities to cancel the country's membership with the sub-regional body. The movement, known as the February 20 Call to Save Mali, described the move as illegitimate after the government failed to consult stakeholders. In a press release, this collective of several political parties and civil society organizations called for a swift return to constitutional order and deplored the arbitrary arrest of persons critical of the military. On the flip side, a rally in solidarity with Colonel Assimi Goita's pull-out from ECOWAS is planned in Bamako, the capital, and other major cities across the country. A more edit has more.
In a press release, the February 20 Call to Save Mali expresses its dismay at the announcement of Mali's withdrawal from ECOWAS. The movement, which brings together several political parties and civil society organizations, denounces the decision as illegitimate because Bamako failed to consult the people. According to the Transitional Opposition Coordination, Colonel Assimi Goïta does not have the mandate to lead the country into such a perilous adventure. It points out that this decision runs counter to Mali's interests and does not correspond to the missions assigned to the transition authorities. In addition, the February 20 call to save Mali calls on the transition authorities to return to constitutional order by organizing presidential elections. The group deplores the arbitrary arrests, threats, and kidnappings of people critical of the transition. Since the announcement of the withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from ECOWAS, the bloc has been considering a negotiated solution with these three Central Sahel countries. Meanwhile, a rally is scheduled to hold today in the capital, Bamako, and other parts of the country to welcome the decision taken by the military authorities.
Imo Edet reporting there. Here in Senegal, the National Assembly Wednesday set up a parliamentary committee of inquiry into the sponsorship verification process by the Constitutional Council. The committee was approved by 120 votes. The MPs met following suspicions of irregularities in the verification sponsorships ahead of the February 25 presidential election. If these suspicions prove to be true, the electoral process could suffer. Francis Boniface has more.
The Senegalese deputies met on the initiative of the Freedom, Democracy and Change group of the Senegalese Democratic Party to shed light on the irregularities in the verification process of the presidential hopefuls. However, according to Seydou Nouroudia, a specialist in electoral issues, there is little time for this commission to function properly.
If, as soon as this commission is established, they give their evidence, then it will be something else. Because it will be very serious if the evidence is really there, and that in the meantime, the commission recognizes the accusations of the Senegalese Democratic Party.
The commission will have to meet to form its bureau and begin its work in the next few days, but the commission has little chance of having the presidential election of 25 February postponed just for a few days before the start of the campaign.
If there are members in one way or the other unable to continue because of his or her involvement in certain things, we will change them. At this moment, if their involvement is jeopardizing the work done by the council, this will be a very serious case and they will face the consequences.
These inquiries are aimed directly at two members of the Constitutional Council, its chairman Sheikh Tijan Coulibaly and Sheikh Njai. Sheikh Njai has filed a complaint for defamation and contempt of court.
Francis Boniface reporting.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we're live on WADR.org and on Facebook, WADR English Service. The Gambian government is engaged in security discussions with Russia with a primary focus on the escalating terrorist threats in Africa. During the meeting, foreign ministers of the Gambia and Russia deliberated on responses to the growing terrorist menace on the continent. Russian Foreign Minister revealed in a press conference that the talks specifically addressed issues in the Sahara-Sahel region, addressing security concerns in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad. WADR's Sankule Janko reports.
Following talks with Gambian Foreign Minister Mamadou Tangara, Lavrov expressed Russia's concerns about the rising terrorist threat from jihadist militias, emphasizing their impact across West Africa. International relations expert Morgan Asogba shares his thoughts on the meeting.
The Gambia is part of West Africa, and whether we like it or not, West Africa as a whole is going through some very peculiar security challenges, and these challenges could be extended to other areas in Africa. So this is quite normal, this is quite constructive to discuss security matters and to figure out the best approach.
Lavrov was quoted as saying Russia is ready to contribute to the stabilization of the Sahara-Sahel and other parts of the African continent. Recall, military leaders in Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger recently announced their decision to withdraw from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The three blamed the growing pressure on sanctions, the regional bloc, which is pushing for swift transition to democratic rule. ECOWAS disapproved military authorities in the three states while vowing to prevent further coups in the region. Speaking on the issue, the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov said, as for the ECOWAS, we hope that the problems that have arisen in the relations between the ECOWAS members can be resolved through equal, mutually respectful dialogue. Russia and the Gambia reportedly solidified diplomatic ties between Moscow and Banjul by signing a memorandum on interministerial foreign affairs consultations. Sankule Janko, Newslink.
In Liberia, conflicting statements arise regarding the exact amount left in the country's coffers by the previous administration of George Weah. During his handover speech, Weah stated that his government was leaving behind $40 million in the country's reserve. However, the new president, Joseph Boakai, rejected this claim, asserting that his government inherited only $20.5 million. This discrepancy has prompted a legislative inquiry. WADR's Moravia correspondent Daliton Popper completes the story.
The contradictory statements by President Joseph Boakai and former President George Weah about the status of the country's reserve have prompted legislative inquiry. Raising the issue during the House's regular session, Maigibi County's Representative Ava Jones said Central Bank Governor Aloysius Talu and his deputies should appear before the House's plenary to provide clarity about the actual status of the country's reserve.
What caught my attention is for the past and the present leaders to be reporting for a particular date and giving two different figures. I see inaccuracy and inconsistency. It is good enough that we invite the central bank governor before this honorable body to give the clear picture of what the country reserve is and also what the considered data balance is. And it will put us on a good footing in terms of accountability, transparency.
The plenary is the highest decision-making body in the legislature. Meanwhile, following a lengthy discussion by most of the lawmakers, Representative Dixon Sibo filed this motion compelling the bank officials to appear on Thursday and provide clarity.
Where the facts not in place when the former president spoke is the current president misrepresenting the facts. We need to know, because each of us have said that we want to be transparent. And note, Mr. Speaker, this misinformation has the propensity of setting the economy off path. And so that because we can validate just with the press of a button, we call in the central bank immediately, and immediately I mean on Thursday, so that they come and just validate to us what is the actual amount, so that we know where we are and we know where we are going.
Currently, supporters of Weah's Coalition for Democratic Change Party are threatening a mass protest if the new administration refuses to account for the over $40 million United States dollars they claim they were left in the government's reserve. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Popper in Monrovia.
And just before the break, a section of the Nigerian population across all social media platforms and mainstream media have been reacting to a recent announcement by the presidency to relocate certain departments at federal ministries in Abuja to Lagos State, the country's commercial hub. President Bola Tinubu's administration says it believes such a move will improve efficiency, grow and stabilize the economy. This claim has not been taken lightly after several political actors, including 7 lawmakers from the northern region, threatened severe actions should Tinubu implement this measure. Join WADR's Usman Umar in the second half of the news as he engages an analyst on the matter. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Burkinabe Transitional President Captain Traoré attributes Sahel state exit from ECOWAS to worsening the security crisis in the sub-region. February 20 coalition denounces Mali's military authorities' withdrawal from ECOWAS, citing illegitimate decisions. Senegal's National Assembly inaugurates a committee to investigate the verification process by the Constitutional Council weeks before February 25. The Gambian government initiates security talks with Russia to address rising terrorism threats in Africa. Ahead in the news, Ghana's Tertiary Teacher Association begin an indefinite strike. We have the press review, guest interview, and a sports update. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Many thanks for staying with us. The Tertiary and Education Workers Union of Ghana has today begun an indefinite strike. The labor union laments over the employers' reluctance to address their welfare needs, including Tier 2 pension funds, vehicle maintenance allowance, and overtime allowance, among others. Their demands mirror that of the Senior Staff Association and university administrators who are currently on their third week of strike. The impact of the strike is expected to affect essential services within tertiary institutions such as environmental cleaning, classroom setup for teaching and learning, security services, and hospital services, among others. Up next is our press review segment.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Let's now join WADR's Darlington Pope and Morovia, who is standing by with headlines of front pages of the national dailies.
We will begin a review process with the front page Africa newspaper. What about Sarah? And we see the photograph of United Nations diplomat Sarah Beslo-Yanti on the front page of the front page Africa newspaper. We will take a gist of the story. She endorsed the United Party and Joseph Boakai in the second round and was rewarded with a nomination as Minister for Foreign Affairs. In the days following her nomination, Beslo has been engulfed in a major scandal surrounding her education credentials, which is now threatening to disrupt her chances of becoming Dean of the Boakai administration's cabinet. We will leave it right there. From the front page Africa newspaper, the New Dawn newspaper is next. Councillor Kura says he pays back money, but company denies receipt and writes Boakai. Justice Minister Councillor Cooper Kra is entangled here, says he paid in full the amount of over $105,000 United States dollars to the Mana River Agriculture Rehabilitation and Development Corporation as mandated by the Grievance and Ethics Committee of the Supreme Court of Liberia. But the company insists it has not been paid the full amount as Councillor Cooper Kra was mandated to do so. From the New Dawn newspaper, the News newspaper is next. Boakai's bodyguards intruder arrested. Girls 7 found dead. University of Liberia clarifies purported increase in tuition. The University of Liberia says its attention has been drawn to information being circulated by some unauthorized individuals about increase in tuition at US $7 per credit hour. Group Laos EPA overcomes this measure. Judges set for 10th annual conference today. From the News newspaper, our last stop for today's edition is the Labour Journal. Blackmailed. Councillor Kura didn't commit ethical breach. Independent investigation reveals. On the back page of the paper, we can't do business as usual during the most recent regime of the Coalition for Democratic Change administration. We will leave it right there. Boakai's first SONA targets 10,000 youth job creation, liberalization. That is how I would love to conclude today's edition of Press Review. Thank you so much for following, and bye-bye.
Indeed, many thanks, Darlington Popper.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Well, recently, the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development decided to relocate some of their offices from Abuja, the capital city located in the northern region, to Lagos, the commercial capital of the country located in the southwestern region. This decision led to an uproar in both mainstream and social media platforms because it was interpreted by some individuals and groups as a move against northern Nigeria that must be resisted. Notably, a 7th-ranking senator from the north, Alin Dume, granted an interview on national TV where he went as far as threatening that if President Bola Tinubu doesn't reverse the decision, there will be political consequences. Our guest, Bosun Adiyeye, a public affairs analyst, speaks on the issue with Usman Umar in Abuja.
I will start by saying, as a nation, as Nigeria, what do we really want? everybody's aware that we have different tribes in this country. We have different people coming together to form a nation. And if we must go along to achieve the desires, the dreams of our founding fathers, we must do away with certain things. If you look at CBN, the department that is affected is basically the supervisory department. Yes. And I think people who don't go to school in Nigeria know that 95% of the banks in Nigeria have their headquarters in Lagos. And if you want to check the books, you want to supervise what a bank does, I don't think that should be done at the branch. That shouldn't be done at the regional office. It should be done at the headquarters of those banks. So if those people that are supposed to now do those work, they are actually here in Abuja, and each time they need to do their work, government will have to spend extra code. Can't we do this differently? So why don't we relocate this department whose primary work is actually in this location? Yes. Can't we relocate them to where they ordinarily supposed to be? And because of those children of the big wigs, so to say, who believe that working in our CBN is doing Nigeria a favor, and therefore they can decide where to work. So when you want to move them from Abuja, the seat of power, to any part of Nigeria, they see that as inconvenience. Yes. So because of their noise, their fathers, anything that trades on two things in Nigeria, you have sympathy: religion and ethnicity. No matter the content, no matter the trust of the matter, the moment you introduce any of this, there will be a bandwagon effect of how people will react to it. Whether the reason they are giving is actually genuine. Because when I listen to somebody that I think supposed to know, somebody that I respect so much, that I believe when he speaks a number of times, I always like to listen. The person of Senator Ali Ndume, I was highly disappointed. I felt like that interview shouldn't have taken place in the first place.
Okay, so that we stay on the conversation.
Okay, let's go ahead. I think we are still on the conversation. Of course,
so that we stay on the conversation. You've made you've laid a solid background to this conversation. You use the word few people.
Yes.
And it's these few people who are affected by this decision that are making the loudest noise. Because anytime these conversations come up, especially that are politically inclined, then you hear about the North says no to this, the North wants this, the North accuses this of that. Now, apart from Ali Ndume and a few other people who call themselves groups, like Arewa Youth.
I remember when, towards the end of Buhari's government, when the APC was saying they are looking for where the next candidate will come from.
Yes.
It was one of those people who said there is nothing compelling Buhari to hand over to a Southerner. So he has this penchant for...
there are people who have
I want to throw your part. And I think I would like to say that we have seen notable Northerners, and among them is the former Emir of
the 14th Emir of Kano.
The 14th Emir of Kano.
So that's where I was actually driving at.
Mamadou Sanusi Lamido.
So voices like that should also be amplified.
No, it's very amplified. In fact, it gives Nigerians the reason to feel like those others who shouted at the top of their voice.
You can count them. You can count them.
He said in his own response that ordinarily he wanted to do the same thing as a sitting CBN governor when he was there. That for somebody to be able to do it now, he felt that's a great thing to have been done.
Bosun Adie, a public affairs analyst, speaking there with Usman Umar in Abuja. Here now is Sankule Janko with Sports Update.
Let's take a look at the quarterfinals of the Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations Côte d'Ivoire 2023, as it's set to serve some interesting fixtures across the three host cities. The round of 16 provided some exciting games, coupled with shocks, and some of the favorites ended up exiting the competition, including defending champions and 2022 World Cup semi-finalist Morocco. Here are some of the games to pay attention to in the quarterfinals and how things are expected to turn out. Nigeria versus Angola. The Super Eagles will face Angola in the opening quarterfinals of the Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations on Friday, February, at the famous Stade Felix Houphouët-Boigny. Angola will be hoping to continue their fairy tale against one of the tournament's favorites, Nigeria. Game will be played at the Stade Felix Houphouët-Boigny on Friday. DR Congo versus Guinea. DR Congo, who are yet to win a game in the competition, will have Guinea to deal with in the quarterfinals. With the 2009 chance success in Cote d'Ivoire in the sight, DR Congo will give their all against an equally motivated Guinea side. The game will be played on Friday, February 2 at the Stade Olympique Alassane Ouattara in Abidjan. Mali will take on Cote d'Ivoire, the host. The hosts put up a solid performance to eliminate defending champions Senegal on penalties in the round of 16. This followed a disappointing end to their group stage campaign where they lost to both Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea and went ahead to concede 5 goals. Cote d'Ivoire have failed to score from open play in their last 3 games and will be hoping to make amends with the return of Sebastian Haller up front. Mali, despite shaky performance in the group stage, put up an impressive performance against Burkina Faso in the round of 16. Game is February 3 at the Stade de Paix in Bouaké. And Cape Verde will take on South Africa. Cape Verde, unbeaten, will play South Africa, who eliminated 2022 World Cup semi-finalist Morocco in the round of 16. The Blue Skies have had a smooth run throughout the competition, unlike South Africa, who have been inconsistent with results. Though a tough one, but Cape Verde have seen it all against experienced countries and have had their way through. Game is on February 3 at the Charles Konan Barnes Stadium in Yamoussoukro. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Krista Mukidi and Maudou Diouf for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service, and stream live on WADR.org. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WADR's Environment Program Enviroscope, which will take us to the top of the hour of 1 p.m. when Sani Moumouni comes live with the second edition of our comprehensive news package in French and Fushifu. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0, and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County. For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.9